All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know we had scheduled for about 40 minutes today. Let me start off first by sharing my screen and pulling up our presentation. Great. Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to talk about the Baltimore Community Practicum course, as well as a few other virtual opportunities for community engagement. And this is an opportunity that's presented through Source. I am here in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'd like to start off always with some quick acknowledgements. They'd like to acknowledge and give thanks to the Piscataway tribe, which is the indigenous people who are the traditional owners of the lands of the greater Chesapeake Bay region. And we also acknowledge the impact of racist systemic oppression, including the practice of redlining on the lives of Black and Brown folks here in Baltimore. I want to let you know who is going to be here with you all today. My name is Mindy Levin. I am the founder and director of Hopkins Source. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society at the School of Public Health. I'm also joined today with Haley Brombat. Haley is our Public Health Practice Program Assistant. She is in her second year in this role and is quite familiar with the Baltimore Community Practicum course and a few other of the options. Haley, did you want to unmute yourself and say a quick hello?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley. Like I mentioned, I've been working with Mindy for a little over a year now. I'm also a master's student in the school. So if you have any questions about BCP or other source programs, definitely feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Haley. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? I want to give some brief information about Source. I'm recognizing a few of you might have already heard about us. We're going to go into some details about the Baltimore Community Practicum course. And then there's a few other virtual engagement opportunities that I wanted to highlight, particularly the Connection Community Consultants Program, a few of our service learning courses that we host at the School of Public Health, and then I'll mention a few other Source programs with various ways that you may or may not be able to get involved in this particular academic year. So starting off about Source, again, I mentioned that we're the Community Engagement and Service Learning Center, and we really work to engage all three of Hopkins Health Professional Schools, that's public health, nursing, and medicine, with Baltimore communities. And we do this in mutually beneficial partnerships that are meant to promote health and social justice. And in all of the work that we do, we are holding dear to our core values, which include reciprocity, justice, service, and collaboration. I do hope that you'll have an opportunity to meet various members of our Source team. We're a pretty great group, if I do say so myself. So the other members of our team also include Tyler Dareth, our Associate Director. We have two Assistant Directors, Kiala Jacques and Tony Bridges. Our Administrative Coordinator, Vanessa Pinkney, and Ezat Shahade is our Communications Specialist. Glenn Ross is our longtime community consultant. And then we also hire a number of different federal work study student program assistants to join us in our office, Haley being one of those. And then I'll also highlight that in the School of Public Health, we have governing board representatives from across all three health professional schools, but the deans in public health that serve on our board, these are the people that I work with very closely, include Deans Sharpstein and Ward. And we also have other faculty, staff, and students that serve on our Source team. And we also have community representatives that join with us on our governing board on a rotating basis. I do also extend the offer for folks if you're interested in joining us in other ways. We do still have two federal work study student program assistants that we are hiring in our office. And then we have an opportunity for folks to apply to serve on our Source student governing board. And all of this information is available on our website. We are currently from the School of Public Health only selecting non-MPH students because we just selected our newest MPH representatives over the summer when they just started. So let me first share a bit about the Baltimore Community Practicum course, what it is, how it works, and it's a little bit unique because it is a course that you can't just sign up for. You actually have to have permission, and there is an opportunity for you to apply. This is a course that is credit or earning, and you have a wonderful opportunity to have a real-world public health practice experience. If you happen to be an MPH student, the course also fully meets the MPH practicum requirement. And if you happen to be interested in a certificate program, this is one of the core required courses for the Certificate in Community-Based Public Health, which I co-created and co-lead with Dr. Janice Bowie in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society. The Baltimore Community Practicum course it basically includes an internship. So not only do you have the course itself, but you will be working on an internship where you're having the opportunity to take classroom knowledge, both from our course and other courses. And you are supporting a specific public health issue that's already been defined by one of our partnering community-based organizations. So this really is a partnership between our school, source, and a number of different community-based organizations in Baltimore City. This year it's going to be different, as many things are, right? It's fully online this year. So even your internship would be fully online. And one thing that I like to tell people is that you absolutely do not need to be in Baltimore. However, because you are partnering with Baltimore organizations, we do want students to be able to collaborate with their Baltimore organizations during Baltimore business hours. So that's when the organizations, your mentors, the preceptors would be available. And so that's something that we want you to consider when you're thinking about applying to this particular course. So there are a few requirements a part of this course. As I mentioned, it is a fantastic public health practice experience that it's not just in second term or third term, it extends between second and third terms. So you do have to actually apply and then take both terms of the course. This is giving you that opportunity to have a more rich experience over 16 weeks than what might be able to be accomplished in just an 8-week term. We do have a almost weekly seminar. There are a few weeks that we don't meet in person each term. We have a mix of synchronous and asynchronous work throughout both of those terms, so we do vary that a little bit. But in second term, our standing time when we do meet by Zoom and live is on Tuesdays afternoons from 3:30 to 4:20 Eastern Standard Time. And then in third term, it's also on Tuesdays around that lunchtime, 12:15 to 1:05. And we do encourage folks to eat their lunches if that happens to fall at your lunchtime. Now, for these various internships, you'll actually see that the community-based organizations are asking students to commit either to working with them, again, through Zoom and doing some virtual things, either 4 hours per week or 8 hours per week. And you'll actually be able to see what they're asking for up front when I show you how you can find the available internships for this year. And once folks are selected for the various internship options, you do register for the course. It's a 550-864. And students will be registering for either 2 or 3 credits each term, and it's a pass-fail option. That 2 or 3 credits is basically you get 1 credit for that weekly seminar, and then you get another credit for every 4 hours per week. So if you were working on a 4-hour-a-week internship, that's 2 credits. If you're working on an 8-hour-a-week internship, that's 3 credits. I will say that the students in the class are actively involved with your organizations, but also actively involved with our weekly sessions. And some of the core required activities of the course is that you will be developing in second term your Baltimore Community Practicum course educational plan. It's basically paving the way for what you're going to accomplish between you and your community organization. And then at the end of third term, which is the second half of the internship-based course, we'll do oral presentations and a final paper with a few small assignments leading up to those activities as well. Now, I did mention we have this weekly seminar. Sometimes it's going to be live, it's going to be some things that you're going to be doing at your own pace. But what are we doing in that seminar? Well, we're going to be talking a bit about the basics of service learning, community-based participatory research, as well as civic professionalism. These are values-based approaches in working in partnership between academics and community organizations that we really want to cover with our students. We also talk a bit about the practical methods for how we can promote partnerships between communities and various institutions. We'll work on our communication skills. And then, of course, because this is the Baltimore Community Practicum course, we're going to model the type of work that we do encourage folks to do no matter where you're working. And that's to get to understand the history of the area where you're working, what are those health issues, who are the leadership, how are community voices involved, and what can we really talk about between our Bloomberg School of Public Health, Johns Hopkins University, and Baltimore City. So it's a nice diving deep into understanding the context of the work that's being underway through your internship opportunities. So this year, you're going to find that there are almost 20 different internship opportunities that are available. So here I am just sharing with you a very small sample of those options. You'll see that we have some activities that are around mental health services for grieving families. There are a few different projects that are focused on how you do community engagement in an authentic, meaningful way, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a project around outreach to the LGBTQIA plus Marylanders here also around COVID-19. There's a data analysis and evaluation project that's supporting an organization that focuses on community-based harm reduction. There's a few projects that are around domestic violence that you can check out. And there's also a few projects that are around justice or equity. And here I have highlighted that there's one around advancing equity with climate justice and healthy housing. And there's many more. I am not going to spend the time going over them. I'm going to show you where to find out about all of that specific information so you can explore that at your leisure. So I wanted to highlight this application process so you understand how it works and you can find out more about exploring these opportunities. So if you don't already know that the School of Public Health has set up a Practicum Opportunities site, and I will share that link with you in a few slides from now. And all of the available positions with the Baltimore Community Practicum course are currently live in the Practicum Opportunities site. Last week, we had an Activities L listserv message go out to let folks know that on September 1st, we opened up. There have been a few messages that have gone out to the MPH students, and it's also been something that's been in our Source Weekly Service Scoop, as well as announcements in the brand new School of Public Health speed read to let folks know about this opportunity. What we want you to do is go into that Practicum Opportunity site, take a look at the available positions, and then really figure out which of those positions might you be interested in participating in this year through the Baltimore Community Practicum course. If you do decide that you want to apply to be a part of this course, we do ask you to only apply to a maximum of 4 potential Baltimore Community Practicum projects. Basically, when you see the internship application, you'll also see that there's a place that you have to put a personal statement for each of those internships. So we really want you to think about the ones that are most meaningful to you and also connect with your interest as well as the requested skill set. Everyone will have until Sunday, September 20th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time to submit your online application. And then the next step that happens is that we have a rather large group of faculty members that serve on our selection committee. And that group of faculty members will be reviewing everyone's applications, and we work to turn this around pretty quickly, that by the end of that following week, we're going to be identifying where students will be going for interviews with these available community-based organizations. So you basically have about a 2.5-week window to conduct your interviews with your organizations. Folks will be doing those interviews either by telephone or using other video conferencing platforms such as Zoom. And at the end of that period of time on October 14th, we're going to be asking the students that participated in interviews which of those positions you are most interested in working on. So if you have more than one interview, let's say you go on 3 interviews, you kind of rank order, here's my first choice, there's my second choice, and my third, or let us know I wouldn't accept that position after I had the opportunity to learn a little bit more. The same thing is happening with the community-based organizations. They're going to have a few students that they interview, about 4 students per organization. And from there, they're going to give us that same kind of rank order of their students. And we will do that final matching to let students and organizations know who's going to work together. And everybody will know by October 15th where folks are placed. And then we'll be ready to get registered and begin working right at the beginning of second term. So there are a few steps in it. First, again, reviewing the internships, submitting your application, seeing which interviews you're selected to go on, as well as letting us know kind of the outcome of your thoughts after you complete those interviews, and then we get you registered for both second and third terms. Now, I do want to cover just a few tips for applying to the Baltimore Community Practicum course. As I mentioned, we ask that you don't apply for more than 4. But one thing that I'll keep in mind is not limit yourself to just one opportunity. From year to year, it's really hard for us to predict which of the internships is going to be the most popular that year. So sometimes there are specific internships that only have a few people apply, but then there's others that end up having dozens of people choose to apply to that particular internship, which is why we really encourage you to take a look, fill out all the options, and pick up to 4 that you want to apply for, because you never know if you're applying to one that happens to be the most competitive. We do ask you to very carefully review the requirements as well as the skills needed for each of those opportunities. Sometimes there's a very specific skill that is needed, such as they need somebody that speaks Spanish. And if you don't speak Spanish, you're not going to be able to meet the requirements of that particular project. That is something that we pay close attention to with the faculty review committee, what the organizations are asking, and if students actually have those requirements. You are asked, as I mentioned before, to craft a personal statement specific to each of those opportunities. So if there is a very specific skill that's requested, you might want to make sure that you are mentioning that skill or any kind of experience when you craft your short personal statement. Of course, we want you to really think about which of these projects you're interested in, as well as do a little bit of work to plan ahead. We recognize that folks are coming from all different degree programs, and it is a requirement to participate in that weekly seminar. So if it's not going to work with your schedule to complete the seminar, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to participate in the Baltimore Community Practicum course. Now, I do want to share where you can find out all of this information. On our source website, which is just source.jhu.edu, if you do a /practice, that's where you're going to find some more information about our practice opportunities. But right now, that website is specifically dedicated to the Baltimore Community Practicum course. There are some frequently asked questions there and some additional details. You'll also see the Practicum Opportunities site that I mentioned earlier. Actually, you can find that site from the School of Public Health's main website. There is a link at the very top of the main School of Public Health website that has practice. And if you go down to practice and look for a practicum, it will show you the Practicum Opportunity site. Once you get to the Practicum Opportunity site, there is a drop down that asks you what type of opportunity you're looking for. And if you select Baltimore Community Practicum, that's when you're going to see all of the different Baltimore Community Practicum courses that are available this year. And within the descriptions for each of those Baltimore Community Practicum projects, you'll actually see the URL that will get you to the online application. So it's all contained within one site. One thing that I will mention about the Baltimore Community Practicum course is that we do have students from all degree programs at the School of Public Health. So whether you are an MPH student that needs to have a practicum opportunity, or if you're a student in any of our other degree programs, including doctoral students that are just interested in a really meaningful public health practice opportunity, students from all programs do apply. So it's a great way to get that experience, and it will be unique this year with everything being online. So I want to go through a few more slides to touch upon a few other involvement opportunities and virtual engagement, and then I will wrap that up and get to answering your questions, and certainly I'll be able to go back and forth in the slides if there's something that you want us to go back to. So there's other involvement opportunities that we offer through Source, everything from folks that are looking for a practicum, a capstone, or a field placement. The work that we do at Source is specific to Baltimore, so the opportunities that we have are in partnership with Baltimore City organizations. Again, this year, we are really working with our community organizations to make these remote opportunities. We do have federal work study positions in our office at Source, but we also work in partnership with the financial aid office to post any federal work study positions with community-based organizations. I'm going to mention some academic service learning courses, as well as talk with you about our Connection Community Consultants program. But I'll also mention that we do a lot of different programming around social justice. We collaborate with student groups. And as I mentioned before, we support the certificate in community-based public health. So it's a wide range of opportunities throughout the academic year. One of the really unique programs that I'd like to mention that gives a great public health practice opportunity in the short term is called the Connection. And the Connection is Source's Community Consultants program. And what we do is we form small teams of students to work on short-term projects that have been requested by our community-based organizations. These small teams are anywhere from 3 to 5 students per team. The students are mixed between the School of Public Health, Nursing, and Medicine, but also mixed based on your skill set. whether you're intermediate, advanced, or a complete beginner in a particular area. Listed here are a few of the types of projects we've done. We've done all different types of strategic consulting. We've helped to write some foundation grants or put together grant templates. We've done performance measurement and help with all different sorts of communications consulting. I will point out, if you happen to be an MPH student, that the connection partially meets the practicum requirement. Each connection project is worth about 50 hours towards that practicum requirement. So I mentioned the small teams component, but short term, what we mean by that is that these projects will span about 6 to 8 weeks in time. A few more things that I want to share about the connection. Of course, you can find more details on our website. We have a short link there, source.jhu.edu/connection. And there is where you'll be able to fill out what we call our consultant profile form. And this is basically where you just give us your basic contact information, as well as you rate yourself, whether you are beginner, intermediate, or advanced in the various skill sets that we utilize throughout the connection. We do host 3 rounds of connection projects per year. We do a fall round, a winter break round, and a spring round. Right now, we are gearing up to do some additional recruitment from our community-based organizations for the fall round. And so you'll likely see by the end of first term the announcement of the available projects. There's absolutely no commitment to do a consultant project through the connection when you complete your consultant profile form. Basically, you're giving us your information to add you into our interest list of potential consultants. And when we release all the available projects for each round is when students have the opportunity to review those projects and then let us know what you're interested in working on. There are a number of different roles that students can actually have as a part of that connection team, and we support you through that process, getting you connected with your community-based organization, and all kinds of connections to resources, subject matter experts, etc. A lot of people that participate in the connection do this completely voluntarily, but there's also an option if you wanted to do this for academic credit that you can register with Source for some special studies academic credit. So it is a credit-bearing opportunity, and again, it can be an opportunity for practicum if so desired. Otherwise, it could be a resume builder. Okay, so I've mentioned a few times that Source is the Community Engagement and Service Learning Center. And one of the things that I want to briefly mention is what we mean by service learning. So service learning, the definition that we utilize comes from Community Campus Partnerships for Health, which is an international organization. And service learning is a structured learning experience that basically combines what you traditionally think about as community service with preparation, really preparing students to work in the community, as well as reflection. And we do a lot of critical reflection activities throughout our various Source activities. Those students that are engaged in service learning are going to be providing these service activities that are directly in response to community identified concerns, and you're going to have a wonderful opportunity to learn about the context in which the service is provided. We also work to make sure that you understand this true connection between the service that you're doing in partnership with organizations and your academic coursework. So it is meant to be mutually beneficial. It is meant to basically develop your skills while being in partnership with community organizations and supporting needs that they have identified. So it's a great win-win opportunity. I mentioned a little bit more about service learning for a few reasons. There is a program that Source has been running now for about 9 years, and it's a program that's just for our faculty and community leaders, and it's called our Source Service Learning Faculty and Community Fellows Program. Why am I telling students about that? Well, because this is an opportunity for us to work in partnership with faculty and community leaders to design 4-credit service learning courses that really combine that critical justice-based pedagogy as a part of your learning experience, while again, simultaneously supporting community partners that are working alongside of us. I wanted to briefly mention just a few of the service learning courses that we'll be running in 2020, 2021. All of these courses are going to be offered as online remote opportunities with our community-based organizations as well. These are all courses that happen to be coming up in second term or later. There's a formulating policy course that is in second term that's run by Dr. Shannon Frateroli that's really focusing on doing some policy related work with a few organizations. So it's a really exciting course that's available each year. And Dr. Frateroli, we've been working together to make sure that we can move this online and support our partners online. Also in second term, there's a course that is run by Dr. Melissa Davey Rothwell. It's on implementation, research, and practice. So there's a main implementation, research, and practice course that really is going over the theory of implementation science, but we give a number of students the opportunity to have this real world experience, to have a practicum working in small teams on an implementation, research, practice project. Sometimes this is some type of fidelity tool or assessment for gearing up to do a new program or project. Dr. Megan Latchall in second term also runs an online Principles in Environmental Health 2 course. We actually moved that course in second term online last year, pre-COVID, so we've got some of that ready to go. And then a really exciting course is actually a course series that spans second, third, and fourth terms. So in the Department of International Health, there's a whole qualitative research course series. And again, there are certainly courses that you can take if you're interested in learning about qualitative research that goes over the theory, but there's an opportunity to do an actual long-term qualitative research project with community organizations in Baltimore. And we basically are working to teach students how to do can-format interviews, focus groups, etc. And you're working on a project with community organizations. Again, it'll be ready to go virtually. In third and fourth terms, there's a Children in Crisis Practicum that is really working with how you work with adolescents on various topics. And in both third and fourth terms, there is a practicum where you'll be working directly with youth through this particular course. And last one that I'll mention is that there is an applications and program monitoring and evaluation that is offered in fourth term. In that particular course, again, you're doing exactly that. You're supporting some type of program monitoring and evaluation project. You're usually not doing the entire process. You might be working to get some type of evaluation structure for a program up and running, designing those tools, and supporting the organization to actually launch and handle their own program evaluation project. So again, highlighting that these are service learning, so they are going to have a lot of critical reflection involved, as well as knowing that these come from a place of justice orientation, where we're not just talking about student skills and experiences, but really bringing in community and voice, and these can be really meaningful opportunities. A few other things that I want to mention for all of you. After the September 20th deadline for the Baltimore Community Practicum course, you'll start to notice that we will be populating other practicum-based opportunities with source partners. So you would go to that same Practicum opportunity site that we shared the link with a little bit earlier. As I mentioned, there's that drop down of what types of opportunities you're looking for. So you'll be able to select a practicum with a source partner. You can also look for practicums with faculty members, as well as some other organizations that will be posting practicum opportunities through that system. Some of you might have seen that we had been recruiting for our Baltimore Action Projects, which is a partnership with the Bloomberg American Health Initiative. We have already had our application deadline and just announced those folks that are going and moving on to the interview round. I do want to mention our Source Service Scholars Program. The Source Service Scholars Program, we won't have applications available until spring, and that will be doing recruitment for the following academic year, 2021-2022. And then lastly, another great way to be involved with source and community organizations is a brand new program that's called Johns Hopkins HEAT Corps. Johns Hopkins HEAT, because they have to be acronyms, is Health Education and Training Corps. And we have selected volunteers, a large group of volunteers, to be trained in a COVID-19 curriculum to go into schools all over the country to teach K through 12 youth about COVID-19. This is a really huge undertaking, and we are really starting with high schools with the promise of going into middle schools and elementary schools. And we are predicting that we will have a future volunteer recruitment cycle, because we know that we have received so many inquiries from school districts all around the country. So if you're interested in that type of work, be on the lookout for a Johns Hopkins HEAT course. A few other things that I'll mention, and then I'll go to Q&As and turn it over to answering questions that y'all might have, is that Source also does have a number of special events Of course, we're moving those special events to be offered to you virtually this year. In early October, we will host Baltimore Week. And again, we'll be talking about all things Baltimore and help to give you a little bit more of that Baltimore context, particularly when you are not on campus with us right now. We're going to have different ways for you to be introduced to community-based organizations that we partner with. We host our Practicing Justice series, which is our social justice series, providing folks with various skills to be able to be a part of justice-oriented activities. We host quarterly donation drives that will be virtual this year. And then in the spring, we're going to host our annual National Volunteer Week celebration, in which we give out our SOURCE awards and recognize and appreciate all the great work that's been done throughout the year. So with that, let me share just a few other ways for you to stay connected to SOURCE so you can stay apprised of all the great things that are happening and will be happening. If you haven't already subscribed to what we call our SOURCE Weekly Service Scoop, all you have to do is send an email to source@jhu.edu and just say subscribe in that subject line, and just let us know that you're a student in the School of Public Health, and we will make sure that you start to get that weekly newsletter every Tuesday. I share that we're all over social media at our handle JHU Source. So if you're on Facebook, Twitter, you want to follow our YouTube channel or Instagram, we're all over social media channels. And of course, if you really want to have a one-on-one meeting with one of our SOURCE faculty or staff members, you can certainly do so. We've been doing those either Zoom or Microsoft Teams or by telephone, just so we can talk with you about your interests and what you'd like to learn a little bit more about. So with that, let me actually stop sharing my screen so we can go in and answer any questions that you might have. I know I covered that pretty quickly, but I'm trying to keep us on time here. Either feel free, because we're a small group right now, if you either want to unmute yourself to ask a question, I'm happy to do it that way, or if you're more comfortable putting it in the chat, I'm certainly happy to answer questions that you might have about the Baltimore Community Practicum course or any of our other SOURCE virtual engagement opportunities with Baltimore partners.
Hi, Mindy. How are you? Thank you for the presentation today. It was very informative.
My pleasure.
So I have one question for you. Just probably the answer is pretty obvious, but when we have, because I have one opportunity for the Baltimore Community Practicum that I am very interested in, and it matches kind of like what I would like to do later on. You suggest that we also added other opportunities just in case. Do we have the chance to like clarify like which ones is like the one that we want the most and etc. Right. Or we do that while we write our statement?
You will actually in the application be able to rank them right away. Like for that example that you just gave, like this is really my first choice or my second choice. Okay. And again, some students will look and say, you know what, Mindy, this is really the only opportunity that I'm interested in. And that's fine, but I think the caveat with that is that if you really want to have a Baltimore Community Practicum course opportunity, and you do happen to pick just one, I won't be able to know until the deadline if you pick the one that's everybody wants or not. So that's why we really encourage you to take a look, see if there might be a few that might be of interest to you, just in case we need to give you that opportunity to look at a few different options. Because, you know, what I would tell folks is that each year the Baltimore Community Practicum course, folks that do put in more than one opportunity have a higher placement rate. So, but there are some of those internships that are going to be really popular from year to year. You just don't know that until the end, which is why we kind of encourage you to take a look and potentially put in a few.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
great. Just another general question. Like you mentioned that there's an implementation research course besides the one that you mentioned, which thank you, because I didn't even know that that was an option. So that's great. Yeah. I'm really interested in that area. Do you know what the other class is on implementation research?
So the name of the main class, I'm thinking I'm getting it right, is literally just implementation, research, and practice, which is the main course. And what I mean by that is there is a theory course in second term. The course that I was mentioning is kind of like the companion course. Simultaneously, while there's more people that are going to be doing the theory course, There's going to be students taking the theory course and some that decide, I also want to have that real world opportunity to actually do a project at the same time. So they have it as a separate section because you have to sign up for other academic credit, and you have a little bit of different assignments that are a part of that.
Okay.
So it's a little bit confusing because it's like implementation, research, and practice, and then implementation, research, and practice, practicum.
Okay. And then, so that word is also a little confusing at the end. So practicum, like for instance, if I apply for this opportunity and I get it, would that practicum part be kind of like the same as what I'll be doing with the Baltimore Community Project practicum if I get accepted on it, or?
So great question, and let me try to clarify that a little bit, because we tend to, at the School of Public Health, use that word practicum very frequently connected to the MPH practicum and the MPH practicum requirement. And with that MPH practicum requirement, it is a public health practice experience working with an organization. But we do have plenty of students that are not MPH students that still have these practicum opportunities because they want the practical experience.
Okay.
So with the MPH practicum requirement, there is a requirement for MPH students to have 100 hours worth of effort at a minimum to complete their practicum. But for some of these other courses like the implementation, research, and practice practicum, you're not going to have 100 hours in an 8-week course. I don't remember off the top of my head what the number of hours is, but that's kind of similar to that formulating policy course that I mentioned as well. It's just a second term course. It's only 8 weeks long. It does meet some of the MPH practicum requirement hours, but it's not the full 100 hours.
Okay.
So actually, if folks are interested in the practicum, particularly for the MPH practicum, we do have on the practice website from the school's main website, where you can see kind of a chart of the different practicum courses that are offered this year and how many hours they are worth. So it's kind of like a standard offering for each course that have already been kind of pre-assessed to say, if you're doing this course, it's 35 hours. If you're doing this course, it's 50 hours. If it's this course, it's 100 hours, which is a methodology that we put together. So some of these have group projects, and with every group project, there always ends up being somebody that does a little bit more and somebody that does a little bit less, but everybody's going to get the same out of that, if that helps. I know it's kind of gets different for MPH.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, I'm in the MPH, so that's something definitely something good. Okay.
Great
Thank
question.
you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, I have a few questions, but first one for the practicum course. You mentioned when you do the interview process, and then there's a matching situation that happens that Source does.
Yep.
I was wondering kind of how that works, like what things you take into consideration for that process.
Sure, great question. Thanks for asking it. Okay, so let's say, Giselle, you have, you go on 2 interviews with 2 different organizations. And when you have those interviews, again, like you're meeting virtually with your potential community preceptor to get a feel of the project, of the organization, and learn a little bit more. And when you complete both of those interviews, you will typically have like, this is really my first choice, and this is my second choice. So you would basically, at the end of that, and we give everybody all these instructions, there's nothing you have to remember right now, but after you have those interviews, you would say, I have both my interviews, my first choice is this project, and here's my second choice. The other thing that could happen is, let's say you have 2 interviews and you decide, I only want that project and I wouldn't take the other project, okay? So what happens next is we have the same kind of ranking system that the community organizations are doing. So let's say that they interviewed 3 candidates. They're going to say, here's my first choice, here's my second choice, and here's my third choice. And they're also going to let us know if there's any student that they wouldn't want to work with. So the way that the matching works is it's based on, again, your interest in ranking and the organization's interest in ranking. So the easiest way to say what happens is, let's say, Giselle, you had 2 interviews, and the very first one was your first choice, and that organization said, you're my first choice, then there's that match. You both decided you wanted to work with each other the most. There's always this circumstance each year where there are superstars amongst our students because we have great students, just like all of you. That, for example, let's say a student interviews at 2 different places, and those organizations, both of them, want that student as their first choice. Well, a student can only have 1 project, right? So we'll look and do some cross-referencing. So as basically what we say to students and to community organizations is, when you respond with your rankings, if you rank 1, 2, 3, that means that you're willing to take any of those positions. You have to let us know, nope, I'm not interested in one of those positions if I didn't get the other ones. And same thing for the organizations. If they rank 1, 2, 3, then they're saying we're happy with any of these 3 candidates, and they have to let us know if there happens to be a candidate they just think is not going to be a good fit. So we do that first review of all the applications with our big faculty committee to basically decide who's going to go on those interviews. And then the interviews and ranking will help us determine who's going to have those particular positions. Make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think I might have missed it, but for the connection, did you say that the like projects that are going to be posted or are posted, and where could I find that?
So we don't actually post them publicly. We don't post them just yet. So the very first step that we ask people to do is to go to our website, that's source.jhu.edu/connection. I'll put it in the chat in a moment once I stop talking, and fill out your profile form. Again, that profile form is saying, hey, I might be interested in the connection. It's really easy. It's here's my contact information and here's my my skill level, my experience level on the various skills. And then what happens is those 3 rounds of connection projects that we have each year, fall, winter, and spring, we message everyone in our connection database to say, hey, everyone, we have now announced the fall connection projects. Take a look at all the projects and let us know which one you might be interested in and working on for the fall. We do them each, 1 round at a time. That's the point in time where people say, yep, I'm interested in a project and I'm willing to commit to the next 6 to 8 weeks to work on that project with my team. But we have plenty of people that are in the database that, you do not have to do a project in a given round. It just gives you access to find out what those available projects are going to be. Haley, who you met early on, had to jump off. She had another course that she had to get into. But Haley and I are currently working with our community organizations to have those projects ready to go a little bit later in first term for the fall round. And those 6 to 8 weeks will really end up covering a bulk of second term. That's helpful.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And final question.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for.
So I do have federal work study. So I was wondering, I saw on the website the positions in the office that are available. I was also wondering, you mentioned that you also list opportunities with CBOs, and if that would be in the same place, if that comes up, or if that's somewhere else.
Great question. So 2 things on that. So Source in our Source Weekly Service Scoop will always include the federal work study opportunities that we have with our office and with our community partners. But the main place to see all of the federal work study jobs is with the financial aid office. That Student Financial Services, they do all the paperwork for all work study jobs, including with Source, including with their community organizations. So right now there are a few community organizations that are considering federal work study this year. I don't know if we'll have as many this year given COVID-19. Just people kind of converting these types of positions and all these projects that we have through Surface Learning courses. It's been what we've been focused on for much of the summer months. So we don't have any current community site oriented work study projects at the moment. But if we do, we would post them in our Source Weekly Service Scoop, but everything will always be with the Student Financial Services office.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any others?
Okay, I totally want to give the students time to ask their questions. I don't know if you remember me, Mindy.
I sure do, Amy. How you doing?
Hi. So I'm actually an alum, just to let the students know I'm an alum of the MPH program. I did the practicum, the community connections program, did the course with you. I did the certificate, the CBPR certificate. So I was here lurking because I'm now at Temple. And so I was just seeing how, getting the background scoop and reminder 10 years later of how these programs are run and how everything goes. So great presentation, and students, you'll be very happy doing any of these programs.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say.
No, it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot even just being on with team members on the Community Connections program. The practicum was a really great experience. So students definitely get involved in whatever way that you can. Take the opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, I should mention, of course, we evaluate all these things, and we've gotten many great reviews over the 15 plus years that we've been doing the Connection Community Consultants program. For the Baltimore Community Practicum course, we've received stellar reviews on those Teaching Excellence Awards and TA Excellence Awards for many years. So we really do take the time to support our students and our community organizations. And I'll also just kind of mention our philosophy in this kind of work is that we really look at our students as whole people with their whole lived experiences and your various identities, because that's how we are in the real world. So your role is not just student. Your role is a person that is in partnership, that is collaborating with the team. And that team might have other faculty members, other peers, and community organizations all involved in that experience. So I think it's one of the reasons why students have really raved about these type of opportunities over the years. We've even had a lot of really lovely remarks from folks that said, I take these courses with world-renowned faculty, yada, 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 but some of my best and most important learning has been in partnership with community. So again, I might be preaching to some choir members here when we're talking about community engagement, and that's the type of work that you want to do. But we're giving you those opportunities, and we like to neatly package them to you and put these out there to say, here's how you can get involved. We've already worked with the community partners to establish these projects based on their needs and their opportunities, and how can we really work together. And that's the work that we're doing.
It's a really well-run program. That's why we're trying to model from it.
We should talk, Amy.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, so I'll put in one other thing in the chat. I'm gonna just give you our general source email account. If you have general inquiries, you can just email us at source@jhu.edu. You are certainly welcome to email Haley B@jhmi.edu. If you have questions around process for Baltimore Community Practicum course and the connection, I'll throw in my email as well if you have questions for me about any of these, but our team members are there to be supportive and offer you the various opportunities, lead you in the right direction. And as I mentioned at one of my last slides, if you ever want to just have a meeting by phone, by Zoom, whatever, with a source team member, we're happy to schedule those times for you. Because we're having so many information sessions right now across our 3 health professional schools, it's a little challenging to have as many one-on-ones at the moment that are longer in duration, but we're doing little half-hour segments as well. It is the start of the academic year. Our September is always a whirlwind with all these different applications, but we are more than happy to answer questions you have about the courses, the programs. Please help us spread the word about the Baltimore Community Practicum course, because we have some really awesome projects this year. And because it's all remote, one of the barriers that is no longer here, it used to be that sometimes students couldn't do a particular project because even in Baltimore, they didn't have the transportation to get to a site that might have been on the other side of town. And now your commute is just at your fingertips and hopping on a Zoom. So that's one of the nice things about this opportunity. And a lot of the organizations, they host their team meetings very regularly through virtual platforms as well. So you just get to pop on in, Brady Bunch style, into a Zoom and be a part of their team as well. So with that, I will certainly go ahead and end right here. Thanks for being in our session today and learning a little bit more. Feel free to please reach out if you have any questions, and enjoy exploring all the great opportunities that we have to offer. Be well, everyone. Hope to be working with all of you this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.